Dan Illman, Mike Beer, race number 9 at Belmont Park on Sunday is the Ashley T. Cole Stakes for New York breds on the turf, one of 3 stakes races on the card. Bet them all with a DRF Bets account. Sign up at bets.drf.com, receive a 300% deposit match. Here's the field for the Ashley T. Cole. They're going 1 1/8 on the inner turf, where inside post positions have a great advantage, and Kaurava most likely will be breaking from the rail. Control group is entered for main track only. Kaurava, I guess you could say he's the last man standing, Mike. King Creasa, Lou Bash, his arch enemies have both been retired to old friends, and the 9-year-old Kaurava, the millionaire, is still in good form. He just beat 4 of these last time out in the West Point at Saratoga, although he was aided by an electric pace up front.
Yeah, all that is true. That was a big closer's race, that West Point. The horses that ran 1, 2, 3 were all at the back of the pack early, and they all came running late and filled out the trifecta. But that doesn't mean Kaurava didn't run well. I mean, this is a horse who, as you say, 9 years old, last man standing, but he can still go and he can still win races. He had a couple of tricky trips leading up to that West Point last time, but he got a clean one last time and took advantage a little bit. He was a great price in there. You're not getting that price this time, but it wouldn't be a big surprise to see him win right back.
He won this race in 2016, 2015, and 2013, looking to become a 4-time winner of the Ashley T. Cole. Offering Plan was second in the West Point as the favorite that day. Again, he got a pace. He came with a good solid run. He has races that indicate he could easily win a race like this. Chad Brown and Javier Castellano almost automatically depressed the price on this horse, and I'm not sure there's such an edge on the rest of the field that I want to take 3-1 second choice on Offering Plan.
Right, I agree with that, especially when you're talking about races at 9 furlongs. I mean, he's a really good horse, Offering Plan, but he's also, to me anyway, he's much more of a miler than he is a 1 1/8 horse. When you get him at a mile with a pace in front of him, this horse really runs. And then the longer you go with him, I think his stretch kick gets dulled a little bit when you go a little bit longer with him. He's capable of winning this race. I don't like him at this distance all that much. This race is probably going to set up well for him again, though.
Wrapped the number 12, finished 3rd in the West Point, but I think of all the horses, all the closers, he was the one that benefited the most. He's been the nibbler throughout his entire career, and I think that's kind of what happened in the West Point. He sucked up late for a piece.
Yeah, right. I mean, that's just sort of been his MO. He doesn't have any speed at all, and he's always running at the end of his races, but it's generally way too late. You can see all the 2nd and 3rd place finishes. Fits well with these horses. He runs every time, but he just gives away so much early in the race.
Of the late runners in the West Point, I might give Tapitation one look because I think he kind of moved early. Manny Franco kept him inside. He had to wait just a bit, so maybe he moved into the teeth of the pace a bit. Maybe he didn't like being in among horses, but I have to admit, he kind of flattened out late, and I'm not sure at this point in his career 1 1/8 is his best game.
Right, that's the real concern with him too, isn't it? I mean, not just that it's going a little bit longer than he maybe wants to go, but it's a question of whether he's ever gonna, get back. There was a time when it looked like he might be taking over the leadership in this division, this New York Red Turf division, and it hasn't really happened for him. He's had a lot of injuries. He did run well last time, though. He had a little bit of trouble. I mean, I feel like if you want to give anybody another chance out of that race, of running one of those really good races he was running earlier on.
Let's talk about Black Tide, the pace setter for the West Point. He's back in here again. Timeform US has him on the lead again, and maybe if he gets an easier time than the West Point, he can pull off a race like the Mohawk from last year when he went gate to wire, because he does have that in him, although again, we're talking about 1 1/8, and I do wonder if there are some other horses in here that can push him. I mean, Hit It Once More is a horse with good dirt speed. Whether he has that sort of speed on the turf is a different story.
Right, Hit It Once More. He's run a couple of okay races on the turf, but he is, if nothing else, Hit It Once More is an absolute need the lead kind of horse. He needs the lead to be effective in his races, and there's just no chance he gets the lead in this race with Black Tide in here. Black Tide isn't one of those horses who goes to the front, tries to back it down and hold on. He goes as fast as he can from the start. And then he just tries to last through the stretch. He is going to be out there, if he stays in this race, out there winging on the lead. He'll probably open up a clear lead up the backstretch. And if he's still there in the stretch, he'll be desperate to hang on. I think the 1 1/8 works against him. I'm also concerned that his recent form just hasn't really been that good. He was a much better horse last year.
And hit it once more. Last turf race was the cliffhanger. He was just in a little bit tough against horses like Irish Straight, a horse that came back to win a Jersey bred stake with an 88, then finished third in a couple of grade threes with Beyers of 91 and 90 respectively. But you do believe he's a need the lead type. He's not going to get it here, and it's questionable whether turf is even his best surface anyway.
Yeah, it feels like he's probably better on the main track anyway, and it just feels like he can't get the lead in here. I mean, I don't see any wins on his card, but he wasn't in front of him.
Let's talk about the horse that's probably going to be the favorite in post time, and deservedly so. That's the number 11, Call Provision, who just missed in the Johns Call Stakes, going 13 furlongs last time out. I think all things considered, he had a very good trip in that race. He was just run down late by a promising stablemate in Focus Group, and he's got all the fast races on his record. He's got 5 triple-digit Beyer speed figures since October of last year, and during that time span has never run slower than a 98. He's way the horse to beat. Why don't I trust him more than I should?
Well, you can't trust him because he is one of those horses who, as good as he is, and he's pretty talented, he is, you followed him for your whole career. Danny's been racing in New York. He's very hard to ride. He's not an easy horse for Irad Ortiz to handle. He tends to get very headstrong. It's tough to get him in the place where you want to get him. In that regard, I think he's been a little bit better this year. I think he's been a little bit handier, a little bit easier for Irad to control. And listen, he's just run a bunch of races recently that make him really, really tough to beat. There are good horses in here. They aren't as good as him. He very rarely runs against New York breds. 4 times in his life, he's running against New York breds. He's won 3 of them. He missed by a nose in this race last year, and he might have been best that day to get Jets. He's just the horse to beat in here, and he's in a position here, tough post on the outside, but if Black Tide stays in here, Black Tide's going. He's going to stretch this field out early. It should allow Irad to land this horse into a comfortable spot.
The very promising Red Knight will be stepping up into a stakes race for the first time for the great Belmont. This horse is 2 noses away from being a perfect 7 for 7 in his career. And here's the Belmont formulator fact. Over the past 5 years, older turf riders going second off the layoff in non-graded stakes, 58% winners and a $5.40 return on investment. Red Knight, he had a nice trip last time out. Junior Alvarado was able to save some ground. He split horses turning into the stretch. He found the rail again, but he was very game, I thought, to hold him off, and that's kind of been the story of his career. He knows where the wire is. He draws better than the favorite, and he's got a little bit of tactical speed. Yeah,
he's a very handy horse. Put him wherever you want in a race. That's really his calling card. There's nothing flashy about this horse, Dan, but all the things you said about him are true. He just runs every time. He knows where the finish line is. Last time, I just felt like he got maybe in behind horses in the second turn. The horses that ran second and third there were both closers, but they got the jump on this horse and were clear down the outside. But once he got through on the rail, he just wanted to beat them, and he did beat them. I think he's dangerous there. I think he's going to get a good trip in this race, and I think he's really dangerous. It's just a question of whether, if Call Provision shows up and runs his best race, can Red Knight up his game enough to beat him? I'm not so sure that he can.
Gucci Factor's an interesting horse for Christophe Clement. This one has won his last 3 tries on the turf, including against open foes most recently, although that was another race that had a very big pace. It melted down, and Gucci Factor, the chalk, took advantage.
Yeah, he really did. The horse that he ran down, Dr. Edgar, ran the best race that day, and he's been in wicked form so far this year. He came back with a huge race last week at Belmont, too. It was a nice win for Gucci Factor with everything going right for him. The good news for Gucci Factor is that I'm not so sure that he's good enough to beat this field, Dan, but the good news for him is he doesn't need a setup like that to be effective. If there's no pace in this race, he'll sit close, and he'll still run.
Leave him at the gate, 30-1 on the morning line. Finally got through that non-winners of 2 other than condition last time out. I thought it was a great trip and ride from Rajiv.
He did get a really good trip and ride in that race. He also ran well 2 starts back when he was second at Saratoga. Both of those races, worth pointing out, was given the ground. I think he really likes that. He's a little bit of an underrated horse, though. I think he's in pretty tough in this spot. This horse is underrated, though. He's okay.
Speaking of underrated is the 5 Winston's Chance. This horse runs fast races at Finger Lakes, a winner at Saratoga for these Finger Lakes connections this year. Trying turf for the first time, though, and boy, roaring fever. 1 for 71 lifetime with first-time turf runners.
Yeah, I like Winston's Chance if we're off the turf.
Let's take a look at our top picks on the turf for the Ashley T. Cole Stakes, race number 9. Cole Provision's got all the fast races. He's the horse to beat. You're going with him.
Yeah, I just took him on top 10. I thought about playing against him with your top pick, Red Knight, who I'm also interested in, but I just think Call for Provision may be too good for these horses.
I've been impressed with Red Knight's determination. I like this inside post. I like that formulator fact, and maybe he gets a slight jump on Call Provision turning into the stretch and digs down deep to win it. I'll go 3-11-7-2 in the Ashley T. Cole Stakes. Again, it's one of 3 stakes races at Belmont on Sunday. You can bet them all with a DRF Bets account and the 300% deposit match that goes along with it. Deposit 50, bet with 200 at bets.drf.com. Approximate post time for the Ashley T. Cole, 5:50 Eastern. Good luck.